Hey guys, welcome back. This is now episode 8 of the Iron Sharpens Iron series, and that's really exciting because, first of all, 8's my lucky number, so I'm really excited to have this next guest on. We have Chris Tuttle on. He is a 212 IFBB Pro, Registered Dietitian, Masters in Nutrition. He's also an animal athlete, so most of you guys would probably follow him, know that. And so I asked Chris to come on today because, as you know, if you've been following along in this series is all about giving a voice back to the bodybuilders. There's a lot of garbage that's going on out there, a lot of stuff that I'm sure is probably confusing you. You're hearing mixed reactions from things. So I want to bring these people on, people that I feel really promote the sport well, are good role models, great competitors, great coaches, or great educators to try to help you guys out. So Chris, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. Thanks for having me.
So I kind of went through a quick little run through of some of your credentials and everything. Is there anything else that I might have left out that you want to fill in there?
No, that's justly the base of my credentials. I'm sure, some people might want to know a little bit more my personality or how it started. I'll just give it a brief overview. I've always liked physical tests, high school pull-up tests, strength feats. So I've always attracted to that. Unfortunately, I got into racing motocross, and that was my primary focus for years. And I had a coach for racing motocross who got me involved with weight training for the purpose of motocross. So you can kind of say it was more like a CrossFit style training.
Okay.
High repetitions, fast pace, obviously everything with your feet in contact with the ground. So it's very functional. And my body responded really quickly when I was like 12. And I saw a change in my physique visually from just what we're doing. And I was like, wow, I didn't know you could lift weights and change your body like that when I was 12.
Yep.
And then I wanted to get into bodybuilding, but my trainer was like, bodybuilding and motocross is like see a sumo wrestler run a marathon. It's just
Don't mix very well.
They don't mix. So he always told me not to. I always wanted to. I raced motocross all the way until I was 21. And then I stopped and got right into bodybuilding. And that's when I only intended to do one show just to see what it's like. Then I'm addicted to it because, as you guys know, bodybuilding is not something like a soccer game where you can change your technique for the following week and be much better. It's like, oh, okay, next year I'm going to come back 5 pounds heavier, better condition, and make some changes. It's not something you can change right away.
Yeah, you have to have that that desire to put in the hard work, put in the repetitions. And like you said, you might only gain 5 pounds in a year.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? Those 5 pounds mean everything to you as a bodybuilder. And that's it's a long-term game. And that's one area, I wasn't even intending to go here, but let's go there. I think this is one area where I want to say today's generation, which really is weird because we're in our mid-30s. So it's not like we're old. But, that early 20 generation right now that's getting into it, I think there's a lot of people that are impatient. And, we see that with the drug use, the high ridiculous amounts of drugs that are being taken and just people expecting results overnight. And, it just doesn't happen like that. And I think that more people like yourself, like I said, I had John on a few weeks ago and other people I bring on, I'm hoping that more of the younger generation understands that you have to think about a long-term commitment here. And you have to be okay with putting in the hard work and not seeing as great a results as you would have hoped for, but being okay with what you did end up getting.
Right. And, I don't know what it is. We can always speculate on generations and change the focus in society. But I will tell people this is bodybuilding, you have to love it because nobody wants to weigh and measure their food, train every day, avoid social situations sometimes if it's detrimental to your progress, not go on a weekend camping trip because you can't train or you can't eat right. Like if you don't love it, if you want to go camping more than you want to be home bodybuilding, then bodybuilding is not for you.
Right.
I had this conversation with Evan the other day, and Evan's like, he's like, dude, when I was first getting into it, all I wanted to do was compete, eat right, sleep, do everything 100%. And if you want to go on a week trip where you're going to get 2 meals in and you can't train, he goes, then bodybuilding is not for you. You might want to do it recreationally, but you're going to have to accept that your results are going to be very minuscule,
Yeah. And actually, I have that conversation with clients that inquire about wanting to do a contest prep. And I'm like, there's a few things that I ask them. First of all, have you been to a show? Do you even know if this is something you want to do?
And the answer is usually no, right?
It is. You're right.
Yeah.
Most of the time they're wanting to do what I call, Instagram bodybuilding. They see it. They haven't actually been there, talked to a competitor, let alone dieted aggressively for anything at that point. And number two, I ask them what their long-term goals are. What do you want to accomplish out of this? Are you wanting to become a pro? Or are you wanting to do this to increase your business for some reason? And there is no right or wrong answer, but you have to know in your mind why you're diving into this very, very difficult, strenuous, very well planned out endeavor that you're about to experience.
Correct. And I tell people too, it's like, they go, oh, I want to be pro in 2 years. I'm like, it took me 8. And I never intended to be a professional. I never cared to. All I wanted to do was just compete. So there's going to be some years where you might give it 100% and you might not gain anything.
Right.
But that's why the love for it matters so much. It's kind of like, if I'm not going to be an NBA basketball player, I'm never going to play basketball ever again. That's silly to somebody who loves basketball, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Play basketball on their local basketball team once a week, twice a week, because they love basketball. So, like you said, when a lot of clients come to me and they state that, I'm like, man, you have to love this. Because if you love it, it's all going to seem worth it, because it doesn't seem like work because you enjoy doing it.
Right.
It's like looking at all the hard work that I put in when I was younger, going through internship, masters, and training and dieting and doing whatever I could to make meals work. I had an internship where I had to be in the ICU, and you can't bring food there, right? So I used to take bottles of Ensure Plus, and I would empty out a quarter of it, and I would add oil to add more calories.
Yep.
Have another bag of powder. And when I would say to the preceptor, like, hey, I have to use the bathroom, run to the bathroom, pound the Ensure, fill the powder into the bag to get more protein, use the faucet in the bathroom, shake it up and drink it. And I would do that twice a day.
Yeah.
So I did whatever it took. But never once did I say to myself, oh, man, I don't know if this is worth it. It's like, no, I knew what I wanted to do.
Right.
And it goes back to what you said, is when you're helping somebody, you have to find the why, and if you have the why, you can better help them make their decision. But man, I loved it. Just like you said, it's like, if it's a part of your life, it's something that you always will do. I will never stop lifting weights. I couldn't imagine a life with
eating, but you'll never stop the life.
No, absolutely not.
I can remember times, I was an Army combat medic, and I can remember times that we'd go out into the field. I was stationed up right outside of Seattle at Joint Base Lewis McChord. And there'd be times that, we'd go out for 2 weeks to the field to do field exercises and stuff. All you got is MREs out there. All you got.
And that's one per day, right?
That's one per day. And so what I would do is, knowing, a week ahead of time that we were going to go out there, at the DFAC, I would stock up on food, and I would shove it in my duffel bag, any sort of protein sources I could find that would last.
Yeah.
And, in between stuff, be out there doing push-ups, find a tree limb, do pull-ups. Like, once it's in you, if it's in you, you can't stop it. And
correct. 100%.
I used to think, like, did the Army make me so regimented? But I would think back to my younger days, my childhood. I've always been like a very structured type A personality. So I think that's what initially drew me to loving bodybuilding when I was 11, 12, 13 years old. And that carried over into the Army. And then once I got out, that just carried over even more. But it's that, like you said, it's that love for it. It's that love that you want to do it, even if all the obstacles are in your way, you're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah. And the other thing is to tell people not to be so fixated on just results.
Mm-hmm.
6 months go by, I'm not feeling any stronger. This sucks. It's like, whoa. Doesn't weight training make you feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, when you started first weight training, did you ever think about bodybuilding? No. But why did you start weight training? Because it felt good. I go, exactly.
Yep.
Don't let results, pressure, social media take away the love from why you initially started something.
Yeah. You learn so many, I've talked to, a lot of younger people, early 20s and stuff. And I've told them there's lessons that you're going to learn from bodybuilding that are going to carry over into your life that you'll never expect.
100%. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't the discipline I learned in bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Like with my business, what I've accomplished, who I've helped, like I don't have any, there's no feat where I get anxiety over or worry. I'm just like, all right, let's do it. All right, let's go. All right, let's do it. Oh, we got to do this for 2 days. All right, this is what I'm going to plan to do. Because being a bodybuilder, you have to plan. Everything plan. Do I have enough food for 5 days? Obviously during this whole Corona mess, it's like before it started, I knew it was going to happen. And I went to the store and figured out what I needed for like 21 days,
Oh, yeah.
Like a week, everybody's going to freak out because everybody always waits the last minute, And like that goes to show like that same planning discipline you get in bodybuilding really transfers into your relationship, transfers into everything else. However, if you get too narcissistically motivated in bodybuilding, it can actually ruin everything else too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like
very thin line.
Directions you could take from it. Yeah.
Very, very thin line. And everybody's going to have to find where that is for them to cross. Like everyone's going to have a tipping point. Like, am I taking it a little too far? Is it ruining my relationships with my wife, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whoever? Is it, damaging to my health, things like that? That's a line that everyone's going to have to find on their own because there is no clear cut separation.
Correct. It's more or less I see how you view it. It's like if people start sweat, like them getting irritated and upset about being 30 minutes late on a meal is far worse on the body than actually being 30 minutes late on a meal.
Yeah, that, honestly, that's been one of the biggest things that I've been talking to clients about right now is that everyone, and I'm sure you're probably getting it too, like everyone's stressed that they're going to lose all their gains or, I'm like, guys, you worrying about it right now is more detrimental, just like you said, than
100%.
Even missing a meal. Like, nothing is going to be perfect during this time, right? And I'm sure people are going to watch this months from now or a year from now, and they're going to be like, it's not going to be relevant because hopefully by then COVID-19 is all done with.
Yeah, right.
But you can still use these principles in other situations to just realize that if you have to be away from the gym for a week or so, you're not going to lose everything. There are things you can do to stay. And I've actually found that, I've gone back to some of my old roots of, just body weight stuff and making up exercises that I was doing during the Army when I didn't have access to equipment. And I've actually found them kind of enjoyable. Like they're a humbling challenge, man. I'm telling you, some of the stuff, especially when you're doing body weight unilateral stuff, like you realize that you got a lot more weak points than you think.
It becomes so much more functional.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, let's go back a little bit to the start. You were in motocross and were the plans to like get sponsored by, a big company and go pro, or was it just something like a childhood love that you just held on to into your early 20s?
I don't know if it was my raising my parents raised me or just my experience with motocross. Motocross is extremely difficult.
Uh-huh.
It's an individual sport, and obviously as being a kid, it's always a dream to be sponsored and do this, but like you're riding against 45 other guys, and everybody wants to win just as bad as you do. So I know what it's like to be defeated over and over again. Mm-hmm. I know what it's like to train my ass off, go to my first race and break my arm and then be out for 8 weeks. Like I've been through all that. So I think my expectations were, I may have had like a dream, like, wow, that'd be really cool to do that. But I think my short-term goals were more or less my primary focus.
Okay.
I never wanted to be sponsored. I was sure I would take a sponsorship, it would be great, but I was never like, man, how do I get sponsored? Man, I got to find this. Man, I got to do this. That was never on my mind. It was never on my mind to be like, man, I got to be pro in 2 years or 3 years. It never was. It was more just, wow, I'm on the 8th step. Let's take the 9th step. Yep. Oh, 9th step. Let's take the 10th step. Oh, wait a minute. I made it to the 10th step. There could be a possibility I might be able to make it to the top. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
More or less like that.
And that's a great approach. And that's probably what led you to propel in, I know you say it took you 8 years to earn your pro card, but I mean, I'm sure you took that same mentality as soon as you got done racing and you applied that same into bodybuilding. Just take it one step at a time. Like, don't think too far into the future because it doesn't matter. You have to get to this next step first before you can get to the
right. 100%.
It's like looking at a big case and like, oh, I'm going to get up there, but you're not focusing on that first step.
Right, which is the most important thing because sometimes when you get focus too far ahead, you become anxious. Anxiousness leads to irrational decisions, and eventually can pull you back further. Like motocross, there's so many levels. It was novice, junior advanced, amateur, amateur expert, then you qualify to be pro. So there were so many steps, and it's like, all right, well, I'm getting 15th as a novice. I probably should win a novice class first, right?
Right.
And then work your way up. And bodybuilding, obviously, like I took a year break. I had to get my college and my internship finished, and there's some things I had to get in line. So there's like 2 years I didn't compete or really were concerned with bodybuilding. I did strongman for like 6 months,
Okay.
but it was more like a stepping stone. Like, my first, show, I got killed. Then the second show, I won the novice overall. And then my third show, I got second in the open class in light heavyweight. And then I won then I won a heavyweight class.
Was that the Jay Cutler Classic?
Nope, not even there yet.
Oh, okay.
Then I won heavyweight class, Atlantic States. And then I went to a junior national show and I got crushed. And then I took a break for a while to finish school. And then I was just bored. I'm like, man, I miss like lifting for a purpose. Like it'd be nice to go back and do it again. And I had no expectations. And then I won an overall in NPC Vermont. And then that was the first overall show I won. And then I won an overall show, Jay Cutler, a week after. And then I was like, wow, that's 2 overalls back to back. What's the next step? And then Factory was helping me at the time. Like, Fact, do you think like I should try nationals? And he's like, no, let's give it a shot. So I'm like, all right. So we initially planned for USAs, but then I tore my pec, right?
Okay.
My pec really bad. And that delayed me to North Americans. And North Americans was actually going to be my last show ever. And this was 2013 in August. And I ended up getting 5th. And I was happy. I'm like, man, I had never thought my goal is to get top 10. That was my goal.
Let me stop you for a second. Was there anybody that we would know that was competing in those shows with you right now? Like for this 5th,
yes.
Is there anybody that like
the guy in first place just won the Arnold Classic Physique?
Oh, okay.
Forgot his name. Hispanic dude. He's got a
Cabanero.
Yes, correct. He won the light heavyweight in North Americans the year I got 5th.
Okay.
And I got 5th that year, and I was ready to be done. That was it. Like my cards were all played. I was going to stop bodybuilding and, move on in my life. And I got persuaded by multiple people and someone from muscular development and to do nationals 3 months later. And I really didn't want to do it. Like I was like, when you make up your mind on something, you made up your mind.
Right.
Like, I made up my mind. And I'm not one to get influenced by a bunch of crap because, in the industry, there's a lot of smoke blowers,
Really?
Everybody's saying you should do something, but I never listened to anybody. I just figured I'll do what makes sense to me. And I had some people tell me I should do it who I did trust their opinion, and I valued it. I knew they wouldn't say something that wouldn't be good. And then I ended up hanging on for another 3 months and did nationals, and I got my pro card. And then that was that. And then that changed everything. I'm like, well, I turned professional racing motocross too. And once I did a pro race, just once, then I quit because that's what I wanted to do. Because at that point in time, I'm too old. I'm not going to make it far. So like, man, now I got to at least do a pro show first, before I stop. And then Animal or Universal at the time picked me up. And then the rest is kind of progressive history. But it was really fun. I have to say, years ago competing, I would say it was much more fun than it is now, just because, it wasn't social media and the only people who knew you were competing were in their gym. You didn't know who's going to show up, you didn't know who's there until you get there. And then the roster's like, oh my God, there's 24 light heavyweights. Because back in the day, there was that many people per class, a lot of people. And it was just a slightly different type of mentality,
Yeah, actually, you just mentioned something. I was going to go a whole nother direction, but I just want to touch on that. Let's talk about the divisions now. Let's talk about what especially with, let me say how I'm going to put this. I want to talk Classic, 212, and Open. All right. Do you see kind of like the 212 right now? I'll be honest, 212 is my favorite class right now.
Yeah, me too.
It's the one that I legitimately think that potentially I could have a chance at getting to. I don't want to be a 270-pound open bodybuilder. Okay.
Right.
Classic for my physique, I could also see I enjoy. I think Chris is doing a great job. I think Breon's doing a great job. I think there's a lot of great talent in there. Do you see, either in the near future or whatever, people just jumping from Classic to 212 for a year or so as a stepping stone to get to the Open? Or do you see Classic and 212 kind of taking a lot of the spotlight away from the Open in the coming years? And I say that because we all know the mass monsters are always going to be the show. Everybody wants to see them. Everybody wants to see the freakiest.
Yeah.
But with social media, with so much marketing and endorsements, sponsorships, everybody wanting kind of bodybuilding to go back to that 70s Classic era, you know, with the lines, no bubble guts, nothing like that. Do you see that potentially in the next 5 years, Classic and 212 could be right up there in popularity with the Open?
I don't know. It might take longer than 5 years. Yeah. I think a lot of people are attracted to it because, one, they inspired to look like it. And there's not many people anymore that want to be that big, you know? But like you said, it'll always be the spotlight because people want to see freaks.
Yep.
You know? It's kind of like, do you want to see 120-pound people battling in a dome to the death, or do you want to see giants battling? You know, like people see crazy, weird stuff, you know? So be it. But I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, 212 Classic, I think will gain more and more and more popularity. Mm-hmm. No question. I would say the amount of clients that I get, everybody's concerned with Classic.
Yeah.
Even if their physique is not even classical at all, they want to do Classic.
So what do you think about if you had a competitor come to you like that wants to train, wants to compete in a show? Do you tell them, okay, let's go for the division that you want, right? That you enjoy, that you want to be in? Or do you kind of try to steer them more towards a division that their body is fit for? Because that's kind of a weird line to cross right there, is because people have this vision of what they want their body to look like. They all have their favorite division, but they might not structurally be fit to maximize their potential in that division. So how do you handle that when a client comes to you? And
I tell them, listen, I'm like, as a coach, I'm an advisor. I'm not a dictator. All right. So I'm going to give you my advice, and you can take my advice, but in the end, I'll support you with what your decision you want to do. Right. I've had people be like, hey, I want to do Classic. But I'm like, I'm just letting you know, you fit more as a bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yes, but Classic. I'm like, that's fine. We'll do Classic. And then eventually he figures it out.
Right.
He's like, oh, you really think I'll be better at bodybuilding? I'm like, yeah. And then he does a bodybuilding show, then he wins, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's like, it kind of goes like that. I don't tell people or demean them or, you know, be like, I can't help you if that's going to be the case. It's more or less just, you know, advising, educating them on why. And then at the end, they can decide what they want to do, and I'll support them in their decision.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. That's a great approach. And you hit the nail on the head when you said you're an advisor. Like, I think a lot of people look at, you know, they hire a coach and then they expect that, okay, everything's going to be magic from this point on. But we're just kind of like, we just kind of like give you guidance. You're the one steering the ship, right?
Right. Yeah. We're not witch doctors and we're not magicians.
Right. Right. It's a kind of a misconception I think a lot of people have when they try to go hire a coach. But I want to go back to what you said earlier. I was going to actually start asking you about your mentality, the switch from racing to bodybuilding. But actually, you brought up something that I didn't know about you that I'm a little bit more interested in, and that is the psychology, the psychological approach you had coming back from a pec tear. Because I've been dealing with a pretty bad shoulder and upper back injury for a little over a year now. It's kind of slowly, and I've been using like the new fit. I'm down here in Tampa, and so I go over to MI40 and use the new fit. And I know that you've used that a little bit before for your quad or something.
Yep.
But walk me through when that pec tear, because for a lot of people that would signal, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done. How did you overcome that? And how did you kind of make that a strength and succeed after that?
I don't know. It's the way my mind works. It's how I perceive or view things. Like, obviously racing motocross, you're going to break bones. You're going to have concussions.
Yep.
There's no way around it. There's just not.
So you've already kind of been conditioned to.
Right. I've broken so many bones. Like I've broken 9 bones, and I remember breaking my wrist, coming back 2 weeks, and then breaking my collarbone. You know, it's just like, that's just motocross. It's just how it is. So like I used to at that point, but I will tell you, muscle injuries are way worse than bones, because bones break, they heal, and then you're fine.
Yeah.
Muscle injuries occur, you're going to be living with that muscle injury probably the rest of your life. You know,
you're going to be hesitant when you go to do that same movement again.
To some degree. And you know how the mind works. Mind perceives an injury, it's going to be hesitant on firing it explosively without you wanting to or not.
Yeah.
Like that's something you always have to deal with. But when I tore my pec, like I've torn my hamstring before. I've partially torn my tricep. I had a lot of injuries along the way, lower back pain, tendonitis. The pec tear was the biggest wind out of my sail, like ever, because, you know, things are coming together so well. And when I initially did it, like, I was like, no, I'm going to be okay. And then I realized how bad it was. Like, couldn't even put my hands together to wash my hands. I had to like take my left hand and put it on the sink, and then take my right hand, use the soap, and wash my hand. Couldn't even pull the sheet over my body for almost a week, you know? So I was like, no surgery. It was like, it was superficial. It was like deep, and it was very mild. It was more of like a mild strain pull from years of just having a shoulder dysfunction, you know, like things aren't working properly. Kind of how pec sometimes usually occur, you know, the weakest link in the whole area. And what's also good is when it started to hurt, I let go of the bar.
Oh,
like when I felt it, I let the bar drop in my chest. And I was like, dude, take it. And they thought I was joking.
Yeah.
Just let it slip right off my chest. I got like the bar like 4 inches off my chest and just let it go.
At what point was this in your career?
This was right after Jay Cutler, maybe 2 months, 3 months.
So before nationals,
before my initial plan was to do USAs, and then they got pushed about 3 months to rehab it. But that occurred, and I was like, wow, this is the first injury where I actually might not be able to come back from, you know? That torn hamstring, like I still competed that year. I just ended up having to make modifications. And that's another story, but the pec was kind of like, that's the first time I ever thought to myself, this might be it.
Right.
I'm going to go take up croquet or something else. You know what I mean? Something totally different.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, bodybuilders and especially powerlifters have sustained much worse injuries, and they somehow make it back. So I contacted one of my friends who's a professional strongman, and I'm like, dude, like, what do people do? Like, what do people do? And he goes, let me put you in touch with somebody. So he put me in touch with one of his buddies who tore his pec, and he's back benching like 650 again, you know?
Yeah.
He just said to me, you know, all these things to do. And I started doing right away, which first was like putting your arm through active range of motion, you know, making sure you maintain range of motion. You know, don't obviously massage an injured area. Don't overstretch an injured area. And most important is just movement.
Yeah.
Don't let the pec just sit, because it's going to get bound, tight, scar tissue, and so forth. And then I just worked my way back from a 5-pound dumbbell to a 10-pound dumbbell to a 15.
Yeah.
And, you know, I went all the way up only to like 60s for that show. Like I really couldn't do much.
Mm-hmm.
Stimulate the pec, but the pec wasn't functional enough to put heavy load, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of the same thing. I have some tendonitis, bicep tendonitis, and some bursitis in my shoulder. But I think that I had a slight pec tear or strain or just major. It's so tight, it's so bound up. But any sort of movement on this side, it feels like it's not. What am I trying to say? There's no symmetry to it. Like it's a little bit tighter, it's a little bit swollen. And what that did is it tightened everything up and pulled everything forward. And so my rotator cuff muscles, my teres, my infraspinatus, supraspinatus, everything just got really tight and bunched up. And it felt like everything in the right side of my back was like just jammed up. And I've been. It's amazing
how one injury can cause just a total breakdown of the whole area of the whole shoulder.
Yeah.
It's like one pec injury, all of a sudden you compensate. Now your traps are tight. Now your arm's going numb. Then your biceps overused, and then it's just.
The human body's amazing, man. Yeah, because I was having there was nerve impingement. I was having spasming all the way down my arm, loss of feeling at times. Like I had to go to the ER one night because it was so unbearable. But yeah, it's just crazy how just one little thing affects everything else. But that's good to know that, first of all, you didn't have to have surgery and that you were able to use these techniques to come back. Because I think a lot of people, even with just minor sprains and strains, they kind of go to that place in their head catastrophizing everything. Like, I'm never going to be able to do this again, or I'm never going to be able to do that.
But this is the thing, right? And now this kind of directly answers your question in one sentence. I said to myself, what am I going to do? Just quit, right? It's like, because I hurt myself, am I just going to leave lifting behind for the rest of my life and just have it be a distant memory? Like, to me, that's quitting.
Right.
Like, quit. If I'm going to stop something, I'm going to stop something because I really don't want to do it. So I said to myself, I'm like, if others can do it, I can do it. And one, if I'm limited, I'm limited, but I'm going to work with what I have.
Yeah. And what else are you going to do? Like,
exactly my point.
Like,
what
you're just
else am I going to do?
Let it be injured the rest of your life? Like, whether or not you get back to competitive bodybuilding or not, you still have to have range of motion. You still have to be able to do stuff.
And I'm like, I hate self-pity. I hate that. So it's like, I refuse to ever feel bad for myself.
Right.
I refuse to be the victim. So I'm just like, no, I'm just going to do whatever I can moving forward and set new goals and be positive. And for like 24 hours, I was sad and depressed. And I came right out of it. And I'm like, we're on a mission now for recovery, you know? And
how long was that recovery?
A long time.
Over a year?
Honestly, the pec has, like, if I'm going to say how long the pec took for me to legitimately be able to press and not think about it as much, probably 2 years.
2 years. That's where I'm at right now. I'm at the point where, like, I'm doing push-ups again and everything. I can't get like a full contraction in my pec, but what little contraction I can get, it just tightens up, man. It tightens up like a rock, and it almost like feels like it's cramping.
Yes. That's what mine felt like. So I quickly learned what exercises I could and could not do, what angles I could and could not do. And then recently, I'm an ART guy, alleviated the pressure and that tightness completely after like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Dude, you have major dysfunction here. Like, and he explained that sometimes when you have an injury, your brain will start sending more signals to a muscle to make it fire more than it's supposed to. So then an overactive muscle and an underactive pec or pec minor, so to speak, say, for example. And then you have a little dysfunction where the bodies learn to move incorrectly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Train it back to work more correctly and get your brain to stop firing the muscles excessively on the side that they're not supposed to, and get them to start firing on the areas they're supposed to be firing. And then within, honestly, 2 weeks, it was like both my pecs feel equal when I'm pressing.
Okay. Yeah.
For years, they never felt equal. Or if I came close to failure, you can feel greater discrepancy, right? You know, but
that's good news, man. I'm glad to hear that, because it gives me some hope that this has come along. It's come a long way in the last probably 4 or 5 months. And I don't even know if it was probably as severe as what yours was, but same feelings that you're just talking about, just weakness, just no symmetry, just that uneven movement pattern and firing pattern.
You just have to figure it out. There is a way. You just have to find it, because I struggled forever to try to figure out what worked, what didn't. And then when he explained to me, I'm like, God, I'm at the end of the ropes here. And then when he explained to me what was going on, I'm like, that makes total sense, because when I do a lateral raise, I feel it so much here, but not here. But this side's totally different. He goes, exactly. He goes, because your shoulders rewired itself, you know?
So ART, that was the secret, huh?
Yeah, well, it's like more like ART and then exercise correction, you know?
Okay. So you last competed in November?
Correct.
Last November, and you took 11, right? What show was that?
The Legions.
Okay. So you're sitting what? I guess that puts you about 20, 22 weeks post-show, somewhere like that?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. How's the off-season going for you?
Good. You know, like, I just can't do 212. I'm too tall. So, like, looking at my pictures and everything and how everything won, I looked fantastic at 222. Mm-hmm. And then I cut weight to 210, 211 point, something like that, to make weight. didn't look great or as best as it could. And I couldn't really get that look back. I just couldn't, So I forget doing that. I mean, these guys are short and they're so thick, So I'm gonna try to do the open. And everything is going great, man. But I'm 36 and I don't have a huge frame. I used to race motocross weighing 170,
Oh yeah.
And that's like with 10%, 15% body fat,
Right.
Being now at 260 in the morning, it's like my body doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
Get out of bed in the morning, I'm like, this is wonderful. I'm going to go for a jog,
Right.
Walking with aches and pains to the bathroom until I kind of feel less stiff and I move about,
So I know a lot of people say that they're going to go through an off season, right? But nobody ever really, not a lot of people ever really fully commit to what it actually takes to put on the necessary tissue that needs to be put on your body. So you just said that you competed at, you weighed in at what, 211?
Yeah.
Right? You're sitting at 260 now. Walk me through what you've been doing nutritional wise this off season, and just kind of give people some perspective of how much of a job eating actually is, and the commitment towards putting up with that uncomfortable feeling, because you have to put up with it to get to 260, 50 pounds from where you stepped on a stage. That does not just happen by having a few cheat meals after the show. Like, that's a steady, planned out, determined plan for a long-term goal. And also, what is your 2020 goal this year?
Okay. So first off, quickly, 220 goal, not sure what I'm going to do. My goal is just to get to at least 270.
Okay.
And then decide what show I want to do. I don't know when that will be, because obviously at the end of the day, your body decides how much tissue you put on.
Right. And who knows if we're even going to have shows this year.
Right. We're just worried about providing the environment to get the body where I want it to be. But at the end of the day, the body calls the shots.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell everybody this, whoever's listening, I've been bodybuilding since 2005. The years that I put on the most muscle, I did not miss a beat. When I say I didn't miss a beat, I mean, say your contest prep where every meal's 100%, off season for the whole entire year, every meal was 100%.
Yeah.
I'd have a cheat meal here and there, but I would kind of match my macros. And I was so diligent. And I jumped huge amounts of muscle for like 4 or 5 years. And then you slack off, then it gets harder.
Right.
It's harder. It's easy to be like, oh, I'm going to sleep in. Oh, I missed a meal. Oh, man, I have no appetite. I don't want to eat rice and chicken. I'll just grab a Subway sandwich. And then it's just a downhole spiral. I might maintain the mass easily at that point, but there's been situations from year to year I didn't gain anything, and it's my own fault, right? But to your direct question of what am I doing now, I'm really just treating this just like how I would a contest prep, because unfortunately, that's roughly kind of how it has to be outside of doing the ridiculous amount of posing and cardio and that kind of stuff. And I do allow some leeway where, does it fit your macros, but with good food.
Right.
But it's been a constant progression, and training is on par. But I found that if my sleep goes down, right, my appetite goes down. If my appetite goes down, my sleep go down, my performance in the gym decreases.
Mm-hmm.
If the gym decreases, you start being like, oh man, I feel like shit, this sucks. And then it's just a clusterfuck. And then it's a cycle of just downward spiral. So I knew coming out of the show, whenever I get to a certain weight, my sleep apnea gets worse. Okay. And if it gets worse, my sleep gets bad. And then it just happens every time.
You use a CPAP?
Yep. So this time I said to my wife, I'm like, my wife's fine with the tube because we work so much. I'm like, I want to go to bed every day, 9:30, 10:30. I'm going to bed no matter what.
Yep.
I've been to bed every day for the last 6 months between 9:30 and 10:30. And I get up every day between the same time. Mm-hmm. So everything is on par. And when everything's on par with my sleep schedule, my eating schedule is perfect. If my sleep is good, my eating's good, my training's great.
Right.
And then that means recovery's great, right? And then it just has to be consistent at that point. Consistent. Then you come into some snags. Like last week, ever since the time change, my sleep's been off.
Oh, mine has too. I get up like 4 o'clock in the morning, but there's been times I've been getting up at like 3:15. I just can't.
Yeah. And then but it's like, you can't sleep, but you're tired, it's kind of like, it messed you up. So like, I actually had some bad appetite issues and some issues with training started to decrease. My body weight went down 4 pounds.
Mhm.
And luckily now I got things back on track and it's climbing again. My appetite's great again. But, you have to protect your appetite. You have to protect your sleep. And you have to have a good schedule. You have to. And a lot of you guys listening, people might be like, oh, screw that. That's fine if that's what you want to do.
Right.
But if you want to put on the most lean tissue, it's just consistency day in, day out. It is like watching paint dry. It's not exactly fun, but
right.
It's
bodybuilding can be a very boring endeavor.
100%.
I mean, it's great and it's fun when you see, when you shred down and you see what you've worked hard for, but you have to be willing to put up with that boredom day in and day out, that repetitiveness day in and day out, and not everybody's personality is meant for it.
Right, and the discipline that comes with it. It's like I'm eating 1,000 carbs a day now, right?
I was going to get to that. I was going to get to what you're.
Yeah, I'm eating a lot of food. It's the most food I've ever eaten. And the other day, my wife and I were watching our Netflix thing, and it ended up going to 10:30. And my wife, I'm like, Lex, I got to go to bed. We got to go to bed. And I ended up not getting great sleep. And I had to get up. And my wife's like, we work from home, so we can do whatever we want. Right. So the alarm goes off, and I'm like, oh, I just want to sleep a little bit longer. I'm like, but I can't. Because if I sleep longer and those meals get pushed together, it's going to be impossible to get 1,000 carbs down.
Right. You get GI issues going on.
Yeah. And then the next day, your appetite will really be low because force feeding all that food,
So what are your, first of all, it sounds like you have a great support system. That's super, super crucial for anybody that's trying to do what you're doing. You have to have, whether or not it's your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or a family member, a friend, you have to have that support system that's not going to pressure you, right?
Yes. Derail you.
We have this lifestyle that not a lot of people understand. And your family's probably not going to understand it at times. Your friends, you're going to have to say no to things like you talked about earlier. But having that support system is huge. My wife's the same way. So it's not really her thing, but she supports me. She understands.
She lets you be. Right. Let's do your thing.
Right. Let's talk about your macros a little bit right now. Where did they get to at the end of prep? And what was your approach and where are they at now? All
right. So first off, I'm working with Andrew Vu, same person Jewett's working with. And believe it or not, which is very interesting, is I didn't do any cardio my entire prep.
Really?
Now, just to give people history, people be like, oh, no, the metabolism freak. It's not true. Because I've worked with Aceto, worked with Factory, I've done shows myself, and I've always had to do double sessions of cardio. Mm-hmm. With every single prep except New York Pro Prep, North Americans prep, but I was at an hour, and this prep I didn't. So because of my sleeping issues, and I've also have colitis, I kept my food very low for almost the entire year, leading up until the photo shoot that Andrew Vu helped me with for Animal, right?
Okay.
So he's like, wow, man. He goes, you're already pretty lean, which is great. And I was lean. I was like 234, so I was still pretty lean. Wasn't focused on building muscle, but I did have more muscle. And my carbs were 200 carbs a day at the time, maybe 120 grams of fat and about maybe 275 grams of protein. So over the course of the cut, I was adding food. He added food right off the bat, and we did do low days and high days, and the low days were about 200 grams of carbs. High days were 600. Then my metabolism just started to take off. And then my high days were 700 carbs. And then my low days were the same. And then eventually 3 low days became 2 low days. And then became 1 low day. And then high day every other day.
Yeah.
Metabolism kept going faster and faster and faster. And meanwhile, people also need to realize that, like, when I'm in prep, I do everything that I can to make sure that I'm losing. Meaning, when I get up, I'll make it a purpose to bring the garbage out first thing in the morning to walk more.
Yep.
I'll make it a point to get the mail. I'll make it a point to go for a walk. I'll make it a point, like, you know what? I've been having to organize this closet and I haven't all year. I'm going to do it right now.
Yep. Just all that extra neat, just throwing it in.
Correct. My neat was through the roof. I think I was averaging like 20,000 steps a day, and I just crank it. I'm like, oh, I got to do laundry. You know what? I'll bang out laundry right now, 10 minutes. So I do everything that I could. So, going into prep, I decided, so I was so lean in August, I'm like, let's do a prep in November. So he gave me more food on my high days. I think it was close to 800 at that point. And then at that point, it was just jockeying those same low and high days.
Yeah.
It was 200 grams of carbs, 300 grams of protein, 80 grams of fat on the low day. And then the high day at the time, it was around 750 carbs. That's not including vegetables. 250 grams of protein, and same 80, 84, 85 grams of fat. And the amount of low days and high days just obviously changed based on my body's response. And I never did any cardio. I was actually able, which is interesting, I was able to train harder and harder, So with all that food and no cardio, but I was keeping my NEAT sky high, it's like I was sleeping wonderful. First prep I ever had where I was sleeping like a rock for 5 hours and wide awake at like 3:30, like ready to roll, and everything worked out perfect. And then so coming from the end of prep, doing those same sort of low days, going into post-show rebound, it was start with 2 low days, 1 high day, then 1 low day, 1 high day, then it's 2 high days, 1 low day, and then it was high days become training days, low days become non-training days. And then from that point, it was just building more food on the low and the high days.
Gotcha.
Now we're at about 1,000 carbs a day for the high day, the same amount of fat, 84, 85 grams of fat. And then the protein is probably around, on the high day, it's probably around 300 now. And the low day, we're probably at 330, 340 now because it's an ounce more for the last 4 meals. And the carbs on the low day are probably around 400.
Okay.
But the low days, I'm like, oh my God, I love the low day. It's like
a break. It's like,
I can feel normal and I have more energy again,
Absolutely.
The first high day back after a day off from training, like the first high day goes down fine.
Right.
The second high day, you're like, ooh, this is a lot. The third high day in a row, you're like, oh my God.
It seems like Andrew's a really big proponent of the calorie cycling. I mean, I noticed John obviously does a really good job with documenting his stuff as he goes with everything. But you think the calorie cycling is probably what enabled you to get away with no cardio, that with the increased NEAT, obviously.
Yeah. Increased NEAT and me already being lean and being starving. Yeah. I was already keep my carbs so low. So my metabolism was probably ready to take off, And then not to mention, people don't realize too in prep, your mind and your stress level greatly affects your metabolism.
Yep.
If you're stressed and you're not getting sleep, you are going to progress at a snail's pace.
Cortisol is raised to the roof.
Right. You can't do anything about it. No matter what drug you take, how much cardio you take, your results are going to be snail's pace.
Yep.
I have the care in the world, and nor did I even care. Like I remember talking to Evan like 2 weeks out. He's like, how you feeling? I'm like, dude, I don't even care. I'm just having fun. Like, this is cool, And he goes, that's probably why you look the way you do and you're progressing, because you legitimately have zero pressure. Like, I could care less,
It wreaks havoc on your body. And, Evan, I'm excited. I kind of feel bad that New York got pushed back, but I'm excited to see him get back up on stage.
I know. He's actually happy that it's a little bit later. That way we get a little more time in the leg.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to see him back there. Just one final thing. I want to respect your time and stuff, but how do you feel that being a registered dietitian gives you an upper advantage, an upper hand in bodybuilding? Or do you think it does? Because you still work with Andrew, do you guys do a collaboration on your macros, or is it just you're throwing all your trust into him? Or
I did go to military school for 12 months.
Yeah.
And when I had a trainer for motocross, I just shut up and listened. My parents always taught me, he goes, if you're speaking more than you're listening, he goes, you're not learning anything.
Oh, that's good.
If you're there to learn, shut up, and just learn. But the first question is, as far as being a dietitian and bodybuilding has made me be able to see through the bullshit, because there's so much bullshit that I read that I can't even comprehend that people buy into it. And then again, I am educated in the matter, so I know, and they are not. So they're very easily persuaded by gimmicks, false advertisement, etc. But
what's probably the one that gets you the most?
It's just like people like talk, when you have like, when certain foods do certain things.
Oh yeah.
We'll go, fish thins your skin. Yeah. Or it's like, fish makes you super lean. I'm like, why does fish make you super lean? Because it's low in fat. No, that's not why. It's like, fish is lean and it's lower calories. Yes, you're going to get a thermogenic effect, but also has a low insulin index.
Mm-hmm.
So insulin response to that protein takes you even lower. So therefore, you're going to get flatter and leaner. That's why when you eat red meat, you're fuller. But people attach to ideas and concepts, and they become very black and white.
Right.
And in being educated in any field, the more you know, the more you realize that black and white, there's a huge gray area.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Huge.
I've always, people ask me what was the biggest lesson or biggest thing I learned through going through my master's program, is that I am a little bit more confused coming out of it than I was going through.
Yeah.
Like, you start going down wormholes, rabbit holes, whatever they're called, and you just realize, you start digging into the research, you're like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, you're like, I don't know anything. Yeah.
I should not have entered this program.
Yeah.
But, I was very fortunate to I went to one of the best, exercise science master's program, in my opinion, in the country, University of South Florida, studied under Dr. Bill Campbell. It's just a great program. We had a lot of great opportunities for research that we did there and everything. But honestly, yeah, come out of it, and I'm like, especially from, like a hypertrophy and strength standpoint, just understanding that, like, we don't know as much about what
they know nothing. Yeah.
muscle and strength as we think. So I think, going back though, the thing with nutrition that gets me the most, that kind of makes me go crazy like that did for you, was the glycemic index. People are like, oh, should I have white rice or brown rice? You're not going to eat it by itself anyway, so it doesn't matter. Like, just getting that concept of proteins and fats slow down everything anyways.
Yeah, and that same concept you said, that's for us, that's like decades ago.
Right.
But the biggest thing, like you just stated, people attach to ideas that might make the minuscule difference, but those ideas are not sustainable.
Exactly. That's a big key.
Sustainable, what's the point?
Yeah.
It's like, you could follow a diet that is 80% correct that you could follow forever, versus a diet that's 100% you could follow for only a month. And that diet that's 80% correct is going to do better.
Oh, it's so true. That's so true. People major in the minor.
Oh, but back to what you said, it's like, you go into school thinking like you know something. Out of school and you're like, what just happened? You're like,
2 years ago.
yeah. And then what was the second part of that question? With Vu. So like, I told Vu, like, I'm not one to like give my opinion. I'm one to give my feedback. If I'm hiring him to do something, it's like, when I fill out my checking information for him, I'm thinking of what is the most relevant information for him to be able to make the right decision. And then I just do it. Because I honestly think, like, if you're going to hire somebody, you just listen and learn. If it didn't work out, it didn't work out. Then you go work somebody else after, or do something else. But the problem is, so many people will sometimes hire a coach, question everything, change things. They never give it 100%. They overthink it, which hurts the results to begin with. Then they're like, oh, he didn't work for me. It's like, I probably think you weren't coachable. Right. And it really didn't work. It's kind of like, you go to microbiology class and 10 kids get A's, you get some B's, and you get the C's and D's, and they go, oh, the teacher sucked. Well, why did they do so well? And why did you not? And I think coachability is something that people need to understand. And I understand that people are, they collaborate, and that's fine. But I just tell them, I told them when I first started, like, I'm not ditching fruits out of my diet. Mm-hmm. These are the fruit. I'm not ditching fruit juice either. That's another thing. I was having fruit juice for almost the entire time.
Okay.
No,
get those extra 1,000 carbs in it.
Yeah, but no sugar added cranberry juice, no sugar added beet juice. I would do like 6 ounces for breakfast. There's certain micronutrient dense foods that I'm not taking out.
Right.
I'd rather take out my white rice than take out my orange. You know what I mean? Like, orange on paper is a lot more beneficial than 15 grams of carbs from white rice.
Yep.
It's not going to make a different type of physique being like, man, he should have cut out those 2 oranges, you know?
Well, and here's what people forget about. When you're deep into a prep, a diet of any sort, your body needs those micronutrients more than ever at that point.
Ever.
Like when you're in a surplus, you don't have to really worry too much. Your body's going to get enough of what it needs, most likely. But when you're down in a deficit and your body's just really holding on for dear life, you need to give it the highest quality food you possibly can.
Exactly. And that's one thing I tell people. I'm like, man, going through the whole prep, I was never sore. I got stronger. I put on lean tissue. I was never tired or fatigued. Like I felt ridiculous. And I contribute that a lot, obviously, to metabolism, how Vu ran it, but also to the amount of macronutrients having per day. I was doing 3 baby carrots, a handful of grape tomatoes, wilted spinach, and kale with 4 meals per day. Okay. I had wild blueberries, the beet juice, the cranberry juice for breakfast. I would have that same for post-workout with the cream of rice I was using. And I had whole eggs. I would have salmon. And I had the most nutrient-dense foods versus like you see a lot of these diets today where people are just like chicken, white rice 6 times a day and sloppy Joe mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The like, micronutrients are what's going to help you absorb those macros.
And you're going to burn fat so much better, you know?
Yep.
People fear the whole fructose in the fruit. And I get it. Yeah. You overconsume it, you're going to have an issue. If you're a deficit, you're not getting fatty liver from fructose. Let's be honest. Okay.
Right. I kind of like to think of it as, you know, your body's this engine, right? And the macros are the gas, but the micros are the oil.
Yeah.
That's what's going to lube the engine to make sure that gas.
The oil, the grease on the axles and the bearings and so forth.
Yep.
I think one thing, kind of spin off what you said before about what drives me the most nuts is like a lot of people following like, you know, confirmation bias, right? Where you get so many coaches out there that will tell you anything you want to hear to get you.
Absolutely.
So it's like, oh, you know, I've lost clients because I'm too health conscious. Really? Because I don't want you to die of kidney failure
right.
or have a heart attack, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you see people with someone's diets and their breakfast is like muffins, honey buns, shoot insulin, have dextrose tabs, whey protein, and the next meal is like 3 cups of white rice, chicken, like no fat, no vegetables. And the next meal is like fast food. And then it's like Rice Krispie treats. And it's like, and they're using drugs. I'm like, that's the fastest way to die ever.
Oh
you know?
My gosh. Yeah.
I'm like, that blows my mind that people want to buy into that, you know, like,
you know, I actually started doing, you know, cause I'm only a couple years into my coaching career and you know, you're always learning with every new client. You're always learning about something.
Yeah.
Everything. And I've actually started taking the approach that like, I'm interviewing clients before I bring them on. Like, I want to make sure, first of all, that they know what my expectations are from them. And they know how this program's going to set and what I expect from them. And also like, if that scares them off, like if they don't like what I hear, I'd rather lose them right away than put in
100%.
And actually you find that a lot of people are like, wow, thanks for being very upfront, very clear. You know, they want that expectation. They want to know what you expect from them. And I think too many people just start bringing clients on just to get numbers on. And then you lose them 3-4 weeks into the program.
You that and like, you know, this is a whole nother topic in itself, but there's a lot of coaches out there who legitimately pay clients to work with them to get the name.
Oh yeah.
Their numbers. I mean, I can't
roll like that yet, but
yeah, there's a lot of that going on, man. But you know, but you're right. It's like we're in the business. You know why, man? Because we have integrity, right? It's like I even say to my clients, I'm like, hey, the other day someone's like, hey, I saw you in front of my money. I'm like, yeah, because you're not checking in. And he goes, well, I want to keep going. I'm like, dude, like I can't help you because you're doing your part. I'm not going to take your money. He's like, oh, I want to keep going. I'm like, I don't want free money. Like I'm here to help people. And it's like, instead of you checking in twice and then disappearing for 2 months and coming back, it's like, that frustrates me.
Yeah. It's not what you got into this for.
That's not what I got into this for. I like helping people, but like you said, man, you got to see what people's expectations are. And, you know, and you'll find this, the more you get into coaching, you get a different type of clientele sometimes that you just don't want, you know, like they're too extreme and they're all over the place and they're self-destructive, you know, and You know, I had a guy once who was like doing some things on his own, and he didn't tell me, and he ends up in the hospital. I'm like, dude, what happened? He's like,
From a PED standpoint?
no, check this out. So don't know why, but he thought it was a good idea to weight train twice a day and do cardio twice a day. All right. He was already peeled, but long story short, he gave himself rhabdo. All right.
Yeah.
8 days out, he's like, well, I want to be really dry. So he didn't tell me this. So he started cutting his water back and training that much. Right. So, and he's like, man, like my body started to get, he goes, my body started to get like smoother. So he goes, I popped an aldactone. So now you're messing up all your electrolytes.
But it is funny.
Right. So long story short, he almost ended up with a heart attack. And I'm like,
younger guy?
the older guy.
Oh.
Yeah. So like, I'm like, I don't know what people think sometimes. Like sometimes, you know, I used to have this conversation with some coaches before. We're like, what percent of your clients do you really think are following it 100%? You know, right? Yeah. And sometimes we're like, I think maybe 60% are following it, you know, 100% or maybe like 90%. Then you have probably like a small percent following legitimately 100%, like everything.
Yep.
Then you have some people just using your eye and they're doing their own thing. And they're, oh, everything's great. Because sometimes you'll see, you'll do something and their response is not what was supposed to happen.
Yeah. Like the numbers aren't matching up. Like we took you down 100 calories.
Yes.
You're up 4 pounds. Like,
yeah. Or like, this is the other one that gets me too. It's like they're on 100 carbs a day and they're like, dude, I'm dying. And you know, they're not. So I'm like, nah, I'll just give them a treat. Just add 50 carbs post workout. Mm-hmm. The next day they're up like 6 pounds. Like, dude, I don't know what happened. And I'm like, that 50 carbs turned into probably 500.
I was going to say, there was only 1 0 after that 5.
Yeah.
Supposed to do that.
But, you know, for you guys listening, you got hiring a coach, man, like you guys got to, you know, do your part. Coach got to do his part. But we're only as good as the communication we're getting.
Right.
And, you know, when you communicate, be relevant in your information. You know, it's kind of like what happens to my dog doesn't matter to Vu, you know, like I just cut right to the chase, the most important things that have occurred in the last 72 hours.
Yep.
So he can make the best decisions, you know?
Oh, totally smart. Really smart.
Got to.
Well, Chris, I really appreciate your time, man. I want to let you get back to your day, your full day of quarantining, I'm sure. But this has been great, man. Yeah, I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. I love the content you put out. I love Animal as a company, and you're a great representative of them. I hope the rest of your off season goes well, and whatever happens in 2020 happens, right? But I know that you have a good, solid plan, and just thank you for sharing everything with us. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Anytime. Take care, man.
All right, man. Oh, wait, you know what? Before we get off, tell people where they can find you, and I'm going to leave it all in the description box below.
All right. So I have a website, TuttleNutrition.com. And my Instagram is IFBB Pro Chris Tuttle. But I'll let everybody know I'm not taking on new clients at this time. Okay. Last time I did a podcast, I got like 50 messages. And that being, you know, but like people get upset. But like you can email me and I could put you on the wait list, but I'm not accepting anybody where I could start you in like a week. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right.
Gotcha.
A lot, man.
I'm going to leave everything below. So if you guys want to reach out to him, you can, not for coaching though. But thank you again, Chris. I really appreciate it, man. And hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Absolutely.
All right.